Is this what you wanted?
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is the newest MCU movie, and I know I am late to this review. I actually had an early screening on Wednesday, but I underestimated the loyalty of Marvel fans because I got there an hour early, and I still couldn't get in. So here we are now. Shang-Chi, the master of unarmed weaponry-based kung fu, is forced to confront his past after being drawn into the Ten Rings organization. This is the first MCU origin film we are getting since Captain Marvel. I know Black Widow just came out, but she was already an established character, so this is the first film we're getting in a while where we're introduced to a new character, so I was excited for that, and it did feel refreshing. And Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings was a blast. The first compliment I want to give this film is that this has the best hand-to-hand combat we've ever seen in the MCU. I mean, the fight scenes in this film were incredible, exciting, and just fucking awesome. Specifically with two sequences on a bus, you probably saw in the trailer, and then a sequence where they're on the side of a building. All that, all the hand-to-hand combat, all the action in this film was done so well. Like I said, the hand-to-hand combat is probably the best we've seen in the MCU so far. I also really enjoyed the story here. It feels smaller scale. It's not like they're dealing with a Thanos or anything like that, but the story is still able to expand the MCU in ways I didn't think was going to happen with a smaller story like this. And with the story being a little bit smaller, it gives time to focus on the characters that were introduced here, because this film has a lot of great characters that are introduced to the MCU. Shang-Chi, our hero, is fucking badass. A great addition to the MCU. The rings are a really cool weapon. I won't talk about too much because there'll be spoilers, but what they do with the rings and how they're used and all that is fucking so much fun to watch. I also really enjoyed the villain here because, yes, he's fucking badass. He uses the rings and it's really fucking cool. But you clearly understand why he's doing the things that he's doing. Yes, you might not agree with his actions. You might think he's fucking crazy, but you totally get why he's on this path, why he's doing the things that he does. I also enjoyed the direction of this film. I know I complimented the hand-to-hand combat and the action already, but just the way the film looks, it's very colorful, it's a lot of fun. It has the same tropes as your normal superhero origin story, but in a weird way, this film just felt refreshing. I know I just said the film felt refreshing, but I need to get into my issues now. The film does have a problem with falling into those same type of tropes and what you would expect from an origin story in the MCU. Even though the film feels different and unique in its own way, it can't help itself falling into some of those same tropes, and then the movie can feel a little bit predictable in that way. Also, I think the film opens up great. Like, the first act is so engaging and just so fast-paced. Like, you're throwing in the action right away. You learn all this cool shit about the rings, the lore, and expands the universe and all that, and then it really slows down. The film has problems with giving us information because there is a lot of backstory. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of things the film needs to tell us so we understand what's going on and things moving forward with the MCU. But there's so much information that a lot of the scenes in the second and part of the third act feel like just exposition. And at first, I think the film did a good job of cutting from present day to the past to show us some more of that information, but would sometimes ruin the pacing and the tone of some of these dramatic moments towards the end of the film. But I do understand why the filmmakers decided to give us the information in the way they did, because if it was in chronological order, it would be pretty boring, and it is information we need to know for the MCU moving forward and to give our characters depth and development. But I'll say this, it works sometimes in the first half and even sometimes in the second half, but there are times for me it kind of ruined the pacing of the film. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings was a refreshing MCU origin story that surprisingly expands the MCU in many different ways. This film is filled with many fun action sequences, and it has the best hand-to-hand combat we have seen in the MCU so far. We are introduced to some badass characters. I love the villain in this film because you clearly understand why he's doing the things that he's doing. The film feels refreshing, even though it does fall into some of the same tropes of other origin stories we've seen in the MCU, so the film can feel predictable in some ways. And after the first act, the film has some pacing issues because there's so much information they need to tell us, and how they give us information sometimes doesn't always work. But overall, I had a blast with this film and had a pretty cool soundtrack as well. And Shang-Chi is a fucking badass, and I can't wait to see what he does next in the MCU. I'll give Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings 7.5 Davy Daves. I just realized we have 2 more Marvel movies this year. That is pretty fucking incredible to think about. Last year we didn't have anything to watch, And this year we're getting 4 movies, like 3 TV shows. I think Hawkeye's supposed to come out this year too, so 4 TV shows. I'm just glad it feels like things are coming back to normal. We're getting Marvel movies again, and we're just back. We're back, guys. So Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Let me know what you guys thought if you've seen it. And thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Dave's Takes.